All right, new this morning, gas prices down for the 26th day in a row. It's a pretty good streak, 26 straight days, hitting the lowest price since the start of the summer. Joining us now, the co-host of Truth or Skepticism, Dylan Ratigan. He's also a financial analyst and investor, down 30 cents.
Shocking, right?
That's a lot, actually.
I was completely surprised, and I think a lot of people were surprised.
So an investigation underway this morning after three churches were burned or vandalized outside of Washington, D.C. We have new details ahead. In Bethesda, Maryland, police investigating arson and vandalism at three separate churches within miles of each other along the same roadway, and include damage to pews, crosses, headstones, and some overturned statues.
Well, speaking of gas prices, you may have noticed some good news. Filling up is getting a bit cheaper. The price of gas is actually down for the 26th day in a row. What's behind it? We'll have an update coming up.
Some welcome news for drivers. The national average of a gallon of gas is down 30 cents compared to a month ago. This is according to AAA, and today's price is $4.68.
My pleasure.
All right, our mask mandate's about to make a comeback. Health officials are sounding the alarm as a new COVID strain is surging across the country.
Want to get some NBC reporting out today as well. We have a lot happening on the ground. The president already talking about how he and his administration are going to handle the first anniversary of the U.S. military's chaotic exit from Afghanistan. And the review that the White House promised to release about the withdrawal is still not done, with much of it expected to be classified. Right now, the UN Refugee Agency saying 24 million Afghans are in need of humanitarian assistance. That is more than the entire population, by the way, of the state of New York. What you are seeing now is Afghans in August of last year, when U.S. began its final military pullout, trying to flee their country, packed into a plane to escape Taliban control. Joining us now is NBC News Pentagon correspondent Courtney Kube. Courtney, it's great to talk to you on this. Take us inside your reporting on this. What are insiders telling you about just how the administration is planning to handle this anniversary?
So there is a recognition by the National Security Council specifically that, look, this anniversary is coming up. Last summer was a tough time for the Biden administration and having to answer to how this withdrawal was carried out. And they realize that reporters like us, Yasmin, are going to be asking them questions surrounding the one-year anniversary and doing stories about it and how things have changed in the last year for both Afghans in Afghanistan and for the many tens of thousands of Afghans who fled that country during the withdrawal. Because of that recognition that this will be a story, the National Security Council has started planning for how they will address this. Now, there seems to be so far, they've not come up with how they're going to handle this anniversary. But according to 6 administration officials who our colleague Carol Lee and I spoke with, they are starting to talk about things like putting out statements by people like Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin. The other question that they're grappling with, though, is will they recognize any one day? As you recall, there were a number of very significant milestones. I mean, frankly, the U.S. already passed one. That was the closing of Bagram Airfield, which happened, the anniversary was about a week ago. That passed without any real recognition. But when we get into August, there's the middle of the month when Kabul fell. It was sort of the beginning of the end of the U.S. presence there. Then there was the horrific attack on Abbey Gate on August 26th. And of course, there were the last American troops who left there on August 30th. So the question the administration is now grappling with is how will they speak to reporters and the American people on these anniversaries, Yasmin?
So a couple things you brought up there that I want to dig into a little bit more as we kind of look ahead to this review that is not yet done, what the transparency is that's going to be there, considering the fact that much of it is going to be classified. You bring up, of course, that horrific attack at Abbey Gate, 13 service members killed there. Are we expecting that to be inside this report? And what else? What new things could we learn?
So there are several different reports or reviews, or as Jake Sullivan, the National Security Council advisor, said last year, hot washes that they're looking at for this. Now, remember, the U.S. military has actually already released an investigation into the attack on Abbey Gate. That came out in February. But these reviews will talk, there are several of them. Again, State Department, Pentagon, the intelligence community. Many people are submitting information to these, and some of them will be classified, or at least components of them will be classified. But they are supposed to, according to these administration officials, they're supposed to not just look at the actual withdrawal, so sort of those 2 weeks in August, but the events leading up to it. So everything earlier in 2021, in fact, when the first conversation was beginning about all U.S. troops leaving, was there enough planning done about things like SIVs, the special immigrant visas? Was there enough planning done in when the U.S. was laying out the timeline for how U.S. troops and potential U.S. diplomats would be leaving the country? And then everything bore to the events that you spoke about, the attack on Abbey Gate that killed 13 service members and north of 100 Afghan civilians. And then even the airstrike on August 29th that killed the U.S. airstrike that killed a number of innocent Afghan civilians until ultimately the U.S. final withdrawal. So all of that is supposed to be encompassed in these. The question is, when will any review be released, if it even will be? And what new will be in it for the American people to learn?
What new will be in it for the American people to learn? Absolutely. Courtney Kube, thank you as always.